Well, there it is.
Yes, there we go. Welcome to the Wednesday Wisdom. Today is September the 19th. My name is Marty Forrest. My website is helloextraordinarylife.com. Go there and check it out. See who I am, what I'm about. There's a free offer on the landing page, 3 steps to reprogramming your negative self-talk, which is really about clearing our own mental static so that we can live in that light space and be true to ourselves. There's also a page about the 6-week course that I'll be offering beginning October 13th, Saturday mornings at 8 to 9 for 6 weeks. I don't think I have the dates updated on the website, but you can check out what that's all about and see if that's something for you. Get on an email list so you get all that information and don't have to rely on seeing it on Facebook or other places it gets posted. In your box. Today, I am talking about honoring your process because, as you know, I make it personal, and it's usually whatever is happening in my world and what I'm aware of in my world as part of my experience of being a human being here on this planet. We're here to experience all of it. All of that encompasses all the good, the bad, the ugly, the great, the joy, all of it. Many of us, human beings, people, are not really fond of doing that because it doesn't always feel good. So what do? We avoid, we distract, we do all kinds of things to stay away from feeling the things that we don't like to feel. And I speak of a default behavior. Every one of us has something that we default to. Some of us cry, some of us get depressed, some of us go get busy and distract ourselves, some of us get angry. Mine happens to be anger. And I'm talking about honoring the process because sometimes we aren't certain what happened that caused some feeling for us. Something got touched inside of us that we haven't looked at or we haven't dealt with. Or for me, it's something that has bothered me for a while, and I was doing my best to mind my business and allow my husband to do whatever he was going to do. And he didn't. He hasn't dealt with it. And so when it came up in conversation, it hit that button that I've been just tiptoeing around the conversation and walking on eggshells around the conversation because I know it's a really sensitive topic. And it's around his mom who died many years ago. There's a lot of stuff there for him, and so I tread lightly in this conversation. Well, then what happens, and this is where some of that default thing, and we're not honoring, or people, and not just me, but people, we don't honor that process, or I haven't talked to anybody else about it either. I just kept kind of stuffing it down and thinking, oh, I'm just being quiet and letting him deal. Well, part of that is true, and the other part is I'm really not honoring my process because I'm not speaking my own truth about it. Even if it's not to him, I'm not talking about it to anyone else either. And I wasn't really present to that, so sometimes that's how it goes. You know, I'm not intentionally not honoring the process. Sometimes I don't really know what's going on. In my MO, we all have the MO or default, so part of my mode of operating is to stuff it. And today they're very subtle things because I've gotten very good at addressing what shows up for me, as we all do. That's why we're here. That's why people keep showing up and people keep listening to these recordings, because we're all on that path. And I'm on that path. You're on that path. However, the deeper layer is I was noticing that some of the behaviors, they start coming out sideways, and I kind of. So what I'm offering is to become aware of it, for you to become aware of what your behavior is when it's coming out sideways. Sometimes we don't know yet. But we know the behavior when it's showing up. Maybe we don't know what's triggering the behavior. So I didn't know what was triggering the behavior. I just could see it coming out sideways. And how it comes out sideways for me is that I stopped sharing everything with him like my best friend, which I do. I started not telling him little things here and there. And they don't seem like a big deal. But I know myself well enough, and this is my invitation to you, is to be paying attention so you know yourself well enough to see what is your MO. What places do you begin to shut down, or do you begin to stuff it, or do you begin to avoid it? Because the behavior shows up, and it is revealing to us that there's something going on. So then we start to pay attention. There's that behavior. What's going on? Mine is to systematically start shutting down. I've done it in the two other marriages I was in most of the relationships I've been in. Like something got triggered, or I'm stuffing something that's really important because I think I'm just giving him his space, and I'm not talking about it. So now I'm starting to not share things. That's how it shows up for me. So you get to look at, how does it show up for you? What are the things that you start to systematically do that you've always done? Maybe it's to a much lesser degree. Mine is to a much lesser degree today, but it was still showing up. And the outcome for me is I'll leave rather than deal. And I'm not interested in doing that today. I'm interested in dealing with myself and with whatever that is. So when we begin to pay attention, or we're already paying attention, this is about honoring. So I called it honoring that process, because it is a process. So we start to honor that, and we start to look and ask Spirit to show me, what is it? Or this conversation came up and I got really, really angry again. And the next piece of honoring it is, what do you need to do for yourself once you see it? Once you realize it, once you begin to look, or somebody pushed that button hard enough, so you default to whatever that bigger behavior is. So the MO is subtle, right? My shutting down is subtle. My not telling him everything, those are subtle things. Then there's something big that happens. I got really angry. Big Q, duh, that's my default. If yours is crying, or yours is depression, or distraction, whatever it is, maybe it's eating or gossiping. There's something that you do that is covering something else. That's our default. That's where we default to, because it's familiar, it's comfortable. Even if it's uncomfortable, it's familiar, and that's what makes it comfortable. Because we know the rules. We know how to play in that arena of angry for me, crying, depression, eating, whatever it is. I've been talking to someone else who says, I'm noticing I'm eating. I'm going to the kitchen when I'm not hungry. So you see there's something showing up. She knows that's her MO. She's not quite sure what it is that's showing up yet, but she's paying attention. So then the honoring that is to be with it. Like when I got so angry, I couldn't even talk to him. I thought, oh my God, I just need to be quiet. I'm not going to be nice. And I'm going to say things that will be hurtful. If it's a depression thing or whatever it is, it's what that does is shut the other person out. So better for me, better for you to go do it with someone else so that we don't harm our primary relationship with ourselves and with them. So whatever your default is, look at it. What's under it? There's always something under it. It's always coming from fear. because there's only those two emotions, fear, love, right? Fear and love, and then everything can be categorized underneath it. So if I'm angry, I'm depressed, which is anger turned inward. I'm crying, which is whatever that is. My eyes leak. They do. I'm eating. There's always something behind. So if I'm afraid, what am I afraid of? What am I afraid of losing or not having or whatever it is? I'm afraid of something. I felt, my emotion that came out of that was I felt betrayed. And I'm not really sure that's accurate, but that was my feeling. Feelings are not facts. But my feeling was betrayal. I'm trusting that he's going to take care of something that he hasn't taken care of. Really, it's because I haven't been speaking my own truth. So I did not say it until I could be clear about what it was I wanted to say. I went and journaled about it. When he asked me about it, I said, look, I'm really angry. I thought he knew. He didn't. I found out later. And I'm just not in a space to talk about that yet. And then the next day, I called 2 people to gain some outside perspective, to see, like, what's my part in this? My part is that I haven't spoken my own truth because it's such a delicate conversation. Well, my default behavior is anger. And leading up to that anger was all those systematic things that I was doing that show me something's up. This is what I'm inviting you to pay attention to. There's things that we do that show us something's up, something's showing up. And ultimately leads, possibly, sometimes it reveals itself before we hit that default place. Sometimes it does show itself. And we can deal with it. So it's about honoring what we need for ourselves to get the clarity, to get behind that default behavior, to honor our relationship with ourselves and others. Because the last thing I want to do is cause harm to either one of us. Now, had I known that he didn't know why I was angry, I would have told him at least that much. I made that assumption, that based on our conversation, he knew why I was angry, but he didn't. So that's just the torture thing. I wouldn't do that on purpose. So that was a hindsight, of course. And so that's the process to get to the point of coming back to him when he asked me, why am I so angry? And I got to share that with him. Here's what's up for me. Here's how it landed for me. It's not his fault. It's not his fault. It triggers something in me that I get to look at. I get the opportunity to heal something deeper that I wasn't seeing before. We talk about peeling the layers of the onion. Just more layers. They're deeper layers. I hear people say, I'm doing the same thing again, and it's just a repeat. Well, it's a repeat, yes, because it looks and feels the same. However, you've been gathering tools all along. So your timeline is usually shorter in dealing with things. We don't sit in it for days or weeks or months. Maybe it's minutes or hours or a day. So that's what I want you to remember too, is that, this process of honoring ourselves and honoring our own process is it's always in layers, because that's what we're ready for. We couldn't deal at the depth that we're dealing now if we hadn't done the other part first. So it's just by layer, by layer, by layer, and we're gathering tools all the way. I think of the spiral going up. There's a spiral. So if we start at the bottom, we're just constantly going up. Yes, it seems like we're revisiting. Okay, here's that incident again. But I've been gathering tools all the way, along the way, until eventually it's healed. And then we do the next. Because that's our experience here of being human, is to experience all of it. And it's a big job. Being human is not for sissies. People say being old is not for sissies. I'm like, being human is not for sissies. it's not always easy. But we wouldn't know the better part if we didn't know the other part. We wouldn't know the fun and the love if we didn't know the hurt and the depth of whatever our pain is. All right. I think I'm done there. I think I've said enough about that right now. What'd you get out of all that?
Well, I can see my patterns of, like, I'll start eating or I'll shut down, won't talk to whoever it is I'm upset with before I get to the point of my default, which is usually crying, even though anger has showed up recently.
Yes.
But that's not my main default. My main default is crying. So it's very interesting trying to pay attention to these things, because sometimes you don't know what's really going on. It's just there.
Yeah. Exactly right. As a culture, we've not been taught.
And the other thing is, when I am speaking my truth and telling someone that it's my stuff, and it's my truth, and this is happening for me to grow and get rid of the stuff I don't need any longer in my life, but it was something that they did that triggered it to happen, they don't understand what I'm trying to get across to them at all. And that causes more problems.
It can, absolutely, because, sometimes no matter how we deliver it, it's the other person is taking it personal.
Yeah.
So it's been said, and I have experienced it, is that our the people that trigger us the most are our best teachers.
Mm-hmm.
So I can validate that for sure.
Sometimes they're not ready for our truth. So
no.
Should we just stay silent in those times, or?
Well, sometimes it's planting a seed. Sometimes it might be saying, oh my gosh, thank you so much for the gift that I get to look one more time at myself. They may not like that, but it really is. There comes a point where I found I'm really grateful that, like, me and you are still friends. Because you were a great teacher for me. You triggered my mom button like nobody's business. So I know that's a very personal thing between us, but you were one of my greatest teachers in that, being able to heal that relationship with my mom. And as a result, we are here still today. And that's how relationships go.
Help me deal with mine.
Right? I mean, I just know that we've been that for each other. So I'll say that on the recording, because I want people to know that it's possible to get through it. It's possible to grow together. It's not always comfortable. It's rarely pretty. Right? It's not, because it doesn't feel good and it's not fun.
Oh, yeah, me and you have been through some stuff.
Right? But when that wound gets touched, holy cow, off the hook.
Yeah.
And I have the sense enough most of the time to not lay it out there on you and to go deal with myself first, because I knew you were simply pushing the button. Because here's the thing, how deeply I'm being triggered, when it's really intense like that, I'm very incredibly 100% clear it is not about the person in front of me. Ever. It's not. So when I get triggered, and you're not the only one, you just happen to be here today. So When I get that kind of trigger, I go, holy cow, like my reaction is so out of proportion to what just happened. That's when I know it has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
That's when I know I'm getting that deeper wound, whatever it is, touched. Opportunities. So I hope that was valuable, that personal little sharing there between us. I'm certain it's going to help somebody.
It is very, very valuable because of all of the healing that you've gotten, you've in turn given it to me. So when I was ready to deal with it.
Right.
I'm just a few years behind you, that's all.
That's all right. That's the whole, and there's going to be people that are not where you are, and you get to lead and teach and be the light for them.
Yeah.
That's how it is. Let me see if I can